I haven't played my Playdate probably as much as I did last year. I mean, certainly not as much as you did this year.
No.
But I've still played it a fair amount, and there have certainly been. I mean, it's just a really exciting console. Like every year that's gone by since it's come out, which is what, 3 years now?
I think so, roughly.
Yeah,
thereabouts.
Developers are pushing it in all kinds of new and different ways, and it's just really interesting to see how its catalogue is expanding. Chris, talk to us about some Playdate games, and I'll talk to you about some.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
The Playdate is obviously a very niche handheld for people that like niche games. That's very much its target audience. All that has been established, obviously. But what I really love is how often developers who love historically niche, weird games go, what if I created a homage to this historically weird niche game that only real sickos and diehards remember for the Playdate? So last year we got Under the Castle, the glorious update to Konami's Pocket Game Boy roguelike Cave Noir. Fish and Feathers, that I was hopelessly addicted to, was a direct clone of the Bird and Beans or Puro minigame that you could unlock in the original WarioWare. And now, 0-0 Perfect Stop brings us an almost one-to-one version of the forever Japanese exclusive, kind of arcadey, kind of hardcore train driving simulator, Densha to Go. Stupid, really, isn't it? This is a series that goes back to 96 when it first released in the arcade. It spawned many, many home ports and full-sized train controller peripherals for the PS1 right up to the Switch. I did try and play a fan-translated version of the N64 at some stage. I was just really, really shit at it. And would you believe it? I'm equally shit at the Playdate's attempt at the Densha to Go formula. But you can't look at 0-0 Perfect Stop and not be impressed. You just can't. Like, the crank works so effortlessly to replicate those controllers. Like, it maps a range of brake and accelerator options to kind of chunked degree increments. It does take a few minutes to really get a feel for, but within a stage or two, it all clicks quite physically and literally. And the range of movement or stopping options suddenly works perfectly, and you're just kind of remembering with muscle memory how much you need to sort of pivot each way to speed up or slow down. This is not a game where you're slamming between go and stop like Crazy Taxi. You're always working incrementally up or down in speed.
It is for your first few goes.
And the game is very happy to punish you for exceeding a track speed limit by even 1 kilometre an hour. It is like punishingly difficult, especially at the beginning. If you realise you've hit the brakes too early for a station, meaning you'll stop short of the platform, prepare to be punished. As in the game's own words, accelerating as you approach the platform is not safe for your passengers. You shouldn't be doing it. It's not safe for them. Pull away with the doors still open, punishment. Train running late, punishment. Like, it's all properly tough. But it's somehow also, in a weird way, quite relaxing, because you're just reading elements of the UI carefully. You're thumbing the crank up and down accordingly as some lovely scenery passes by. And it's worth spending a moment to remark on said beautiful scenery too, because this game is built, I assume, similarly to Grand Tour Legends. That was the Playdate cycling game that came out a couple of years ago. In that, I think a video is essentially playing in the background, showing your route to give you the illusion of traveling through 3D space. If you go faster, the video will scrub onwards. If you slow down, the frame rate is dialed back to represent deceleration. Very, very clever. Very, very kind of effective as well, especially on this little 1-bit screen. It looks insane, really. Like, even when you know it's just playing a video, you're still going, it's like a little 3D world. I'm on a train. On this tiny little thing, I'm on a train. This is right up there as one of the Playdate's like showpiece games, but it does take patience to properly get into, and then it does take more patience to get fun out of. So I would absolutely recommend it to anyone with a Playdate, just purely by virtue of saying this is a mad thing you can buy for a few dollars and have in your pocket. But equally, be prepared to just take it quite literally slowly as you're building up the speed of the train, and just get the hang of it gradually. But it's a cool thing, a really, really cool thing.
It is. It's one that it is really impressive. Like, when I first saw it, I thought, oh, okay, this is just like Root Bear for adults.
Yeah.
Or Root Bear for people with jobs. Root Bear with benefits. But when I started playing, I was like, oh no, this is Mars After Midnight is probably as close to a AAA game on the Playdate that we've had. This is the first offering for the console from Lucas Pope of Papers, Please and Return of the Obra Dinn fame, and we we'd known he was developing a game for Playdate since before the Playdate was even released. So it definitely arrived to some expectations. And Mars After Midnight is pretty much what you'd expect from him. It combines the Border Patrol attention-demanding puzzling of Papers, Please with the one-bit graphical stylings of Obra Dinn, and wraps it all up in a really fun, quirky and kooky wrapping, seeing you act as a bouncer of a nightclub on Mars for aliens. But functionally, Mars After Midnight is virtually identical to Papers, Please, where you'll have an increasing stack of conditions you'll need to be on the lookout for from your potential patrons, and then you need to examine the details closely and see which aliens are allowed in and which aren't. The game has got a very sophisticated and clever randomization engine for generating the aliens, so you're always going to be surprised by who and what appears, which keeps things interesting. It's a delight to navigate. It's really charming. It's not the revolutionary Playdate game that perhaps I was hoping for. It would have been great to see Pope, push the console in a radically different direction to what he'd done before. But I mean, then again, Papers, Please is one of my favourite games, and I've played it a handful of times on PC and on mobile too, in portrait. So it's nice to essentially have like an analog for that on the Playdate, especially when it is as polished a development as this. And it's a very, very good game. And I think if you are like a day one, if you're a new Playdate owner, it should be a day one purchase. I think it is. It's a good game. It's a very good game.
Playdate game I already talked about way back when. Be Kind to Yourself is without doubt the 2024 release across all platforms that I played the most this year. Just including every console handheld I own, this is the thing I played the most. I said in my initial review how well it blended elements of traditional shooter gameplay with devious, quick-thinking, matching puzzler bits, whilst also offering higher scoring potential for the rhythmically minded. And it was a game seemingly made for me. Like, I think the design document just could have been a picture of my face in pitch. Throughout the year, I've continued to play Be Kind to Yourself. Coincidentally, I did get better and better at it as well. I topped all but one of the game's online leaderboards at my peak. And although I've been dethroned on a few of them now, as I haven't played the Playdate as much for a month or two, I know it would only take one extended loo break to become absolutely hooked again. I compared it to Jeff Minter games like TXK when I first brought it to the show. I think I might enjoy it even more than those, meaning that it has to get a place on my top 100 list above TXK. Like 10, 20, 30 hours of play in, I just didn't get bored. The better I got at it, the more I wanted to play, which is basically the perfect curve for a score chasing game. Be Kind to Yourself looks great, sounds great, feels great, and there's just such tremendous depth and strategy to its entire design that unlocks in kind of gradual onion layers for those that persevere. It is a tremendous thing. It is quite possibly my favourite game I've played on the Playdate to date. And it's up there with Bloom as well as being just two essential games that I love, not just because they're on the Playdate, just as games. I just think that they're marvellous.
Now, I love a Metroidvania. I love the core concept of them, and we were gifted with The King's Dungeon a couple of years ago on Playdate, which was a Squid God-developed, self-genred Microvania. It boiled the Metroidvania concept down to its barest bones into little 10, 15-minute dungeons where you traverse the small maps, find abilities, avoid traps to get to later areas, and rinse and repeat. And it was really, really fun, and it proved that the Playdate could be, a good fit for the genre. And now we've had Echo, the Oracle Scroll, which is a proper full Metroidvania, albeit, working to Playdate's strengths and avoiding its weaknesses. Not entirely, as I will come on to, but it's sensibly put its focus on puzzle solving rather than action, which might have tested the console a bit too much, but it's also got a nice element of what made The King's Dungeon work well, which is streamlining the genre trappings and having a good tight map to explore, good rate of upgrades. You get a dash and a double jump fairly soon on, so moving about starts to feel more fluid, akin to Celeste or something like that, which we know also works well on the Playdate from that little bit. And and the Oracle Scroll is split into 4 quite sort of separate maps, rather than having like one big interconnected map. You go up in levels, different sort of biomes, which again helps keep things streamlined and straightforward for the console to handle. and for the player to keep track of. So it's sort of like having 4 Microvanias linked together, but I'm sure there'll be cause to revisit the earlier maps as I go on. I'm on the 3rd level now, and I'm having a really good time. There's some good platforming sections in the game, but the game does start to struggle when it gets too complex with moving platforms and, sort of appearing, disappearing platforms. It causes some frame rate drops, which is significantly less than ideal when trying to perform intricate platforming moves on such a small scale control setup, and especially because the game is also quite punishing with its platforming in terms of how far it will set you back, which was a bit of a pain because I like the rapid live die repeat nature of something like Celeste or Super Meat Boy, and even if Playdate couldn't handle that speed of repetition, I do feel that the game could be more generous with resetting your position at the start of the screen rather than falling off and going to a different area of the map. So it doesn't feel as good as I think it could, which is a shame because that's entirely in the developer's control. Like it's not like making a game on PC for a million different potential setups. It's a Playdate. It's fairly binary in what it can and can't do. So if you're making something and realise the Playdate can't do it, don't try and make it do it.
Just do something else.
Just do something else,
Yeah.
But it's still a really polished gaming experience. It's still the game I probably played most on my Playdate this year. So it's got to get a mention. It's certainly not all bad, but also like Mars After Midnight too. It's fun to see developers make games work on the Playdate. You can make Papers, Please on Playdate. You can make a Metroidvania on the Playdate, but I still feel that the Playdate is at its best when developers are using what makes the console unique rather than using it as a continual compromise.
Yeah.
And with the catalogue pretty flooded with efforts, there's a lot to choose from now. Well, obviously, we certainly haven't been able to keep up with every single game that's been officially released on it, as we once were able to do. But with Season 2 for the Playdate confirmed for next year?
I think so. It's been very, very soft on details at the moment.
But that's going to be really interesting to see how they manage that. Like, what a panic learned from a couple of years worth of developers poking and prodding the console's capacity. What selection of games are they now going to consider to represent potential of the console? It's just going to be really interesting, and I can't wait. Like, I love it. I love my Playdate.